And speaking of Joe Biden, yesterday I had something in Jacobin that is very unusual for me because obviously I am normally just doing commentary, right? I'm in the opinion of expressing opinion, in the business of expressing opinions, making arguments about things that are already in the news. But in this case, I was actually in a position to report something that, as far as I can tell, it's been up for a day and a half. Nobody's corrected this yet. As far as I can tell, has never been reported in the English language press before. It was in Israel 40 years ago, but seems to have been totally forgotten then, which is understandable because it was a story in 1982 when it was originally reported. It was a story about a senator from Delaware that nobody really gave a shit about. So there's no particular reason that anybody would remember it, but it is maybe of greater interest now. So if you read, for example, so I think we have a graphic from the Wall Street Journal. This is a article in 2020. It's from just after the 2020 election. So when Biden had already been confirmed as the winner, by Tevi Troy, who's among other things, is a presidential historian. And the article is called "When Biden Met Begin." The young senator clashed with the old Israeli prime minister. And it tells the story as kind of isn't this an interesting thing from Biden's past about Menachem Begin, who was the prime minister of Israel in 1982, very Netanyahu-like figure. He was like a super right-wing prime minister, and Israel had just invaded Lebanon. That war, which went throughout the 80s, and by the mid 80s Israel had withdrawn from most of the country, but they didn't withdraw from like the remainder until like 2000. And it was a really devastating war. And but when it had just started, Begin went to the United States. He went to Washington, D.C., and he met with a bunch of American politicians, including Senator Joe Biden of Delaware. And if you read this Tevi Troy piece looking back on this, like, oh, isn't this interesting incident? And, Biden's in a different position now, but, and how's he could approach this now, whatever. If you read that article, it has a lot about the theatrics of the meeting. That apparently there was a point where Biden and Begin were arguing with each other. There was like shouting and fingers pointing and table banging and stuff like that, but it doesn't really say what the shouting was about. It's very unclear from reading that article. If you go back and look at some of what was published at the time, some of that makes it a little bit clearer. So there's an article in the Sydney Morning Herald called, so this is from 1982, called Biden, so it's Begin flies home after U.S. Senate clash, Beirut ceasefire shattered again. And in that article, there is a little bit more of a detailed description of this Biden Begin confrontation, and it has this crucial piece of information, which is that unlike some other senators at the time who actually were very angry about the sort of belligerence of the attack on Lebanon, Biden didn't have a problem with that. That he actually said no, that was actually okay, but what he was mad about was the settlement policy on the West Bank. So Biden, in a sense, was maybe being like more assertive about something good, right, opposing the settlement policy than he has been since, but he was generally for the operation in Lebanon. But again, it's 1982, senator from Delaware, nobody really cares that much what this guy has to say, so it's like it sort of gets a little bit of attention in this article because of the dramatic aspect, but it doesn't really quote much of what Biden says. Fast forward to now, and there is a reader in Tel Aviv who, through another friend, got in touch with me and he had stumbled, just kind of doing some hobbyist research about this, on a article in Yehudot Aronot, I think I'm probably butchering that, but that is a mainstream Israeli newspaper from 1982. And in that one, he found this truly jaw-dropping quote, which I am where he says, so this is I'm going to do a quick screen share so you can see this, that this is a quote from the translation. So we got this. The reader who initially shared it gave us his translation, and then we reached out, through intermediaries to a few other Hebrew speakers to get, their, to get their notes on it. And so we kind of put it all together to get this translation. So this is from the Yahoo.air note piece. It says, Biden's comments were offensive, Begin said. Suddenly, Biden said, what did you do in Lebanon? You annihilated what you annihilated. I was certain, recounted Begin, that this was a continuation of his attack against us. But Biden continued, it was great. It had to be done. If attacks were launched from Canada into the United States, everyone here would have said, attack all of the cities of Canada, and we don't care if all the civilians get killed. If so, Bacon told us, I was wondering what the shouting was about. It turned out Biden wasn't shouting about the operation in Lebanon at all. He was angry about what Israel was doing in Judea and Samaria. Judea and Samaria is kind of the right-wing Israeli way of talking about the West Bank. But I don't know. This strikes me as pretty interesting that, I've had people since this came out tell me, oh, why are you so excited about this? He's just doing a hypothetical, right? There's no, he's not, he's not actually advocating committing genocide against Canada. He's just saying that if there were ever terrorist attacks from Canada, he would be in favor of doing genocide in Canada. But that itself strikes me as pretty interesting, right? That especially now that he is his president and would actually be in a position to do so, right? Because if you look at that language, that it was great, it would be justifiable to bomb all the cities in Canada, even if it killed all the civilians. That's hypothetical genocide against Canada. I don't know. I'd kind of, it's Jacobin, so I'm sure that, it'll make only a limited splash, but be kind of nice if somebody asked Biden about what he thought about this now. I don't know, while they're at it, maybe also Justin Trudeau.
Well, first of all, Ben, it's nice to see you, get out of the armchair where you just, spit it off takes and actually do some investigative journalism. So that was nice to see. But it is interesting. It's really horrifying. I think that there's competing ideas, or two ideas that can be in tension at times, right? Of do these politicians really believe what they're saying, or are they just at the mercy of let's say special interest groups, right, with Israel? So I think it's interesting to go back that far, right, and see. And he wasn't just towing the party line, right? He was kind of freestyling, right?
Yeah.
He was like a wild card. He was like, hate this, love that.
Yeah, exactly, right. These are his genuine opinions, apparently, right? Because he's balls and strikes. He's willing to argue with him about some of it, but it's no, all of the all the bombing of Lebanon, that's great. No, I would totally do that to Canada. If which is also kind of amazing, because as the reader who brought this to be pointed out, there actually hadn't, so the PLO and other groups were staying, headquartered in Lebanon at that point, but there actually hadn't been that much terrorism in the couple of years leading up to the invasion, right? There had been an attempt to assassinate the Israeli prime minister that was kind of the immediate trigger, right? So it's I guess the equivalent would maybe be if Quebecois separatists tried to assassinate the American ambassador. Sorry, I said prime minister earlier, ambassador I meant, right? They tried to assassinate the American ambassador in Ottawa, but that would be I don't know. I'm just going to do a hot take here and said that I would prefer, even in that hypothetical, not to kill all the Canadians, but that's
would you have a sick respect for Biden if someone brought it up and he's like, yeah, I stand by it. I stand by every word. That would be, definitely not the best thing to say, but there,
No, but I could respect that there's this nice continuity. All right. Hey, Biden's got a Biden.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. You have been watching free public content from Give Them an Argument. To access every single episode of the show, the main show on Monday nights, all of the streams, all of the debate breakdowns, all of the patron-exclusive post-games on Monday nights, all of the patron-exclusive bonus episodes every week, and much, much more, go to patreon.com/Ben Burgis. I cannot resist ending this with, don't be foolish.